With spring just around the corner, it's time to reevaluate your wardrobe. You don't need to wear jackets, sweatshirts, or ponchos anymore, so do
Nope.
you have the t-shirts you need? I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to see those sexy guns you're carrying, right? So scroll on over to HeShirtSheShirt.com and browse the inventory there. The only way you're leaving that store without a shirt is if you live in a nudist colony. You all know who you are. In fact, if you really want to turn heads at the next bingo day at the senior center, purchase the It's Not Going to Lick Itself shirt and marvel at the looks you will most certainly get. Yeah, maybe you should have worn pants too. So please, use the code JSGCast when you check out so you not only support a great store, but you support a great podcast too. And now, please enjoy this episode of Just Some Guardians.
Damn, dude. You're so good at
I've
these
been
ad
working on
reads.
my I've been working on my radio voice.
Yeah.
Actually, I feel like that one I started a little bit over. Normally, I can get through it.
Do you want to? We can do it again if you want.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah, go for it.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do it at the same time. Let's do the ad read in a round.
Oh my gosh. So this is one thing that has stuck with me. This is a tangent.
Yeah, go for it.
But the Muppet Christmas Carol soundtrack,
Which is incredible.
which is incredible, and your mom always used to play it, and that every time I hear, I specifically got the Christmas is coming, the goose is getting fat,
Hey, please put a penny in the old man's hat.
because every time I listen to it, I remember sitting in the jelly bean
Oh,
and
wow,
singing
that's a
along
memory.
to it.
The jelly
Yeah.
bean shit. So we had a was it a 94 Toyota Previa van? And if anyone knows that van, we call it the jelly bean because they legitly look like a jelly bean with wheels. The engine sat underneath the front seats, so there's no, hood at all. Yeah, the curvature of everything. Yeah, oh, that was a great van, dude. Had the captain chairs in the middle that spun around.
We had too much fun in that.
Yeah, that
To be honest.
so good. So good. Yeah, then someone totaled it. What a real fucking loser that guy is.
Did you total it?
What? No, I didn't say it was me.
You totaled it?
What? I didn't
What?
say it was me.
Brett, what happened? You destroyed my childhood.
Whoa. Okay. All right. Let's calm down here. All right. Let's not. No reason to get absolutely nutty here, but no, I was driving to work. At the old Party City, right? And driving down the road there at the certain intersection, which is the same intersection I've been T-boned on while I was on a bicycle twice. So me in this intersection,
Bowles and Wadsworth, right?
yeah. I was trying not to throw cross streets out there, but please don't find me and murder me and my family. Thank you.
Okay, Bowles and Wadsworth. That's a huge. I mean, that's an intersection, but also there are so many houses in there.
I'm gonna edit, so it's just like a how's it blah right there. It'll be sim speech. I'm not going to. I'm too lazy to edit. Are you kidding me? But yeah, so I'm cruising right, and I'm obeying. I'm doing everything correctly, like legit, because I hadn't had my license for a super long time, right? And so I'm like, I've got a good distance between me and the car in front of me. There's a lot of traffic going on. And this black Jeep in the far right lane decides it wants to turn at the last second and goes, like, the Family Guy, how many lanes we got across? 6, 7? Good luck, everybody. And it goes, whoom, and just zips through in front of everyone. So everyone's slamming on their brakes. And there's this white Nissan Murano in front of me, brand new, like they had it for 3 days. So they have really nice brakes, right?
Yeah,
because it's a brand new car.
Sure.
And that van
does
not have as good of brakes. So I had enough space, but when everything has to stop suddenly and they stop on a dime and I'm sliding into them. Yeah. So I slammed into the back of their car and, airbag explodes and I crawl out, and is everyone okay? And it's just like, this trophy wife, and She's all freaking out and crying, and I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, it's over for me. So, I was like really nice to her.
They're going to find me in jail.
The first thing I did after I was like, are you okay? I was like, made sure our stories were the same, You got to be quick, I'm like,
sure.
Man, did you see that black Jeep? She's like, yeah, it cut out in front of everyone. I'm like, good.
Yes, you did see that.
I'm glad you remember that. Yeah, I'll never forget, like, I have to call my dad, which is terrifying.
Oh, sure.
Like, hey, Dad.
Yeah.
My dad's not a scary person, but when he gets to a certain point, he's terrifying. So I'm like,
yes,
you
I've
never know.
experienced it once.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
Yes, you have. Holy shit, I forgot about that.
And I went, yes, sir. Okay, goodbye.
Whatever you say. But so he pulls up, right? And I'm like, gosh, it could go either way, but I'm like, I just totaled the car.
Right.
And like,
right.
Things were always tight, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to die. And he walks up and is just like, I'm glad you're okay. Everything's fine. Take a breath. Gave me a hug. And I'm like, oh, like that was such a relief in that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Dad, could you not hug me so hard? My chest hurts really bad. So, yeah. So then, I called work and like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't come in. I was like, cool, thanks. And then we went to IHOP.
Nice.
I distinctly remember everything that happened that day. It was great.
That must have not been long after we graduated, right?
No, that was like probably the summer after, yeah.
Yeah,
I think you just left.
Because I mean, you were still working at Party City, and you moved on to Securitas relatively quickly.
Not too fast. Yeah, not too long. Yeah, it was like the summer after we graduated.
Dang, that's crazy. And I thought the Jelly Bean was still around.
Oh yeah, no, it's been gone for a while.
Like
I waited till I was. So what actually happened, right? Is I'm driving. This was like the day after you left. I'm like, fucking Russ abandoned me. I'm in tears. My mascara's running down my face. And I'm just pedal to the metal going down bowls. And, that's the real story,
Come on. Get in front of me so I can wreck this.
Those people look happy.
I don't want to live away from this wreck.
So there's this white Moreno in front of me, right? And there, a couple dudes were in it, and they just looked happy, like really good friends. And it reminded me, and I was really pissed off. And so I just wham, and just rammed into them.
I feel bad for that.
That's the true story. No, it was.
I mean, I'm sure. I'm sure it didn't affect you quite that badly.
No,
but I guess I never thought about, the fact that we were really, really. We are really, really good friends.
Yeah.
But like we saw each other every day, and then I'm like, peace out.
And then you're gone. Yeah.
Won't see you in person for years.
For like another 7 years. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are good times.
I'm sorry.
I feel like
still love you.
Hey everyone, we're working.
We're
through
opening
some
old wounds.
Shit. If you guys could just kind of mute the podcast for a while, we're just gonna work through some shit here. Where were you when I needed you most?
I was there. I promise.
I was but a child. A child.
Oh no.
Yeah. One day.
You were dating Lisa, or else I would have been like, you should have just moved with me.
Yeah, but you were moving to Alabama, and I had nothing out there. I mean, but you.
I know.
Which is, a pretty good reason too. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Russell one day just went to buy milk and cigarettes and just never came home.
Yeah, that's almost for real. Exactly what happened.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm out of here. See ya.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 96 of Just Some Guardians. I'm ElmmerFudd, your host for the evening, and the voice you've been hearing for the last 29 minutes is the effervescent Russel.
Jeez. Ooh, thank you. The
man.
venerable ElmmerFudd.
Oh, hold on. The effervescent Russel.
It's like velvet on a ripe plum.
God damn it! No, you didn't. All right, that happened. How are you, buddy? Minus the whole, everything we just went through.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm great. The last few weeks have been great. I've just been really busy. Like I wish I could have talked about The Witcher last week.
It was good.
I bet it was. Because I've played like The Witcher 3, but I've watched the show and I've read some of the books.
Oh, that's cool. That'd have been really nice because I hadn't read them.
Oh yeah, I think I read like the first one and then part of the second one.
Okay.
Because it's really, the first one is just a compilation of stories. Anyway.
Yeah, we covered all.
The point is,
it was cool because he does like that was Admiral Nips was on last week from the Potato Thumbs podcast, and he's like he plays all the card games. He's played all the Witcher games. He's played Witcher 3 probably 700 times. Read all the books 4 or 5 times. Watched the show like twice.
Right.
Like, he is all in on the Witcher. So yeah, it was solid, dude.
The show, like I really enjoyed the show because it was very close to the books. They changed a few things, but for the most part, anyway, yeah, I'm sad I missed out on that because I think The Witcher is a really cool property that doesn't get enough credit outside of like the gaming sphere.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sorry.
Cough it up.
I got choked
cream
up
on your shirt.
So, Kevin Conroy.
Kevin Conroy.
I
wasn't even there for that, but apparently it's a thing.
It's a thing, yeah. Sucks to be late.
I tried so hard and got so far.
But in the end, it doesn't even matter.
We cannot complete the rest of this song due to copyright reasons.
Too far to lose it all. Fuck that.
That eye contact, though.
Do you like that?
Baby.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I love it when you serenade me and look me in the eye.
I've been really trying, baby. And if you feel like I feel, Jackal, come on. Ooh.
Come on.
Let's get it on. Oh, baby.
Every once in a while, when I'm feeling particularly randy, I'll just start playing that song, and Lindsay's like,
I feel particularly randy. Yes.
Lindsay pops up like Groundhog and is like,
Is it time? Is it time?
Actually, she's like, scatter! But, I take it as, like a lion after its prey.
Yeah.
I just go, Rrr.
Have you heard that new Bruno Mars song, Leave the Door Open?
Mm-mm.
Look that up. Oh, dude.
Okay.
Same vibes.
Is it sexy?
It's
okay.
It's not fair how smooth that song is, dude.
Oh.
It's got that
I always
classical
like
ring
Uptown
to it, dude.
Funk.
Yeah, it's a good. Bruno Mars is great, dude.
It's got a good beat to get down to, and you know what I mean.
That's a statement that Russell just said. Yeah, it's a beat that y'all can get down to.
It sets a good rhythm.
Yeah.
Get some soft taps in there, and then dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
I start singing along, and Lindsay is like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like,
I'm getting the rhythm. Up, down, funk.
Yeah, funk you up.
Who cares about anything else tonight? Let's just, whatever happens,
right?
man. I don't care.
We're just riffing now.
Yeah, I dig this. I dig this a lot.
Welcome to the live show, folks.
Hell yeah, you should be here. Twitch.tv/JustSomeGuardians. Friday nights at 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. Come check that out. Come hang out with us. Watch us be dumb, all the pre-show stuff. Like, you think this is a lot of random shit? You should have been here before.
Yeah, we honestly, I feel like that's all it is. Especially when it's just the two of us.
Oh, yeah.
It just becomes a slideshow of random events. I think it works, though.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, all this is just an overflow of, the cup of pre-show. So.
It's the overflow of cream, if you will.
Yes. Kevin Conroy.
Right. T-shirt.
Hell yeah. Isn't it all random? Yes, Laz, you're correct. It is. Yeah, my week, right.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
How was your week?
You're
back at work full time now.
Yes,
right?
I've been
I
back
think
at work
you've
full
been there
time
for
for
a
a
couple
few
weeks,
weeks.
right?
Yeah, 3 weeks now,
Yeah.
2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
I think it is 3 weeks because I think the last time
We
we talked, you were.
had we had snowpocalypse happen this last weekend.
Oh
At the
yeah, you
beginning of
guys
the
got
week,
like
we got
dumped
like
on.
4 feet of snow, dude.
Jeez.
Shit was nut. But the cool thing, the thing I really like about Colorado, is you'll get dumped on, and then like 4 hours later, it's 50 degrees and half of it melts. So like,
Sure.
that happened. They let us drive into the station. Well, for any new listeners, I work for the post office. So they let us drive into the station Monday, which was an awful drive. Because it rained first.
They let you drive into the station? Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean they let you drive in?
I'll get to that. So like
Okay.
freezing rained and then it snowed on top of that. So when the plows came through, it was just ice underneath.
Ice. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're all sitting there waiting for them to cancel because it was just, there's no way, especially these mail trucks, which are designed and tested in Florida, which means they work in all weather conditions, right? So we're sitting there waiting like there's no way. Like, one, the truck can get to us from the plant. Two, airplanes can land at the airport to get mail to the plant. Like, there's not going to be anything to deliver. And so we all had gotten a text to like call the hotline in the morning just before we came into work. So we all call the hotline and it's like, yes, everything is peachy keen, hunky dory. Please go report to your office. And we're like, okay. And so sliding across the ice all the way to work, man. And the second we got there, they went, yeah, looks like no one can get to us. So go home, I guess. And we're like, really? Really? Like what? You couldn't have told us that before we came in? Yeah, I don't know why the hotline didn't change. Like, well, why do we even have a hotline if it doesn't work when it's supposed to work? And that is the federal government for you, my friends. Oh my God, dude.
Now I see what you meant by they let us drive in.
Yeah, they let us drive in and they said, nope, nothing for you to do. But, so that was Monday, right? By Tuesday, the roads were clear. There was like a foot of snow left everywhere. And it was like a normal, regular snowstorm. And the roads were clear. Everything just immediately melted. This was the day after. So like, what was today?
As opposed
Friday?
to Texas, where it took them 6 days to clear the roads.
Or you go, somewhere northeast where like it snows in January and it doesn't melt till March, like.
Right.
I wore shorts to work today. Half my houses had no snow in the yard. Half of them had just a little bit. And that happened 4 days ago. It's just, I don't know. That's my favorite part about here is you can have a shitty storm and then it's like it never happened 24 hours later.
Right.
So, yeah.
I saw, and you guys made a tunnel in your front yard too, right?
Yeah. So it was something.
That looked like fun.
It was something I'd always wanted to do as a kid. My dad is an incredible person, but he did snow removal until I was like 17. So anytime there's a snowstorm, he was out all night I'm not going to just say plowing, go mom. He was out snow plowing, shoveling the parking lot, all the contracts he had, right?
Yeah.
And so he'd be out all night and just sleep all day and then go out the next night and do it again. So like he just wasn't physically able to do, play with us in the snow. And so like, it was just really cool. It was like something I'd always wanted to do, And so, I sat down, we had this, the awesome, huge, the whole front yard was just covered in like the 4 feet of snow. So we dug an igloo out and then we're like, I think we can cut out to the other driveway next door. So we cut our way through over there. And then my daughter's like, well, what if we do a tunnel through the whole yard? And I'm like, I like your style. I like where your brain's at, kid. And so
I like that. Yeah.
So I had it was so much fun. I had 4 different size shovels and I'm curled in a ball in this little igloo, digging my way through, and then I'd gut out and go to the other side and kick through the snow and dig my way in. And then, get Izzy down in there digging and then get really small. And I'd be like, Ethan, get in there. And he'd get down there and start digging stuff out. And yeah, we had this tunnel system going through the whole front yard. It was so cool.
That's so awesome. That's something I've always wanted to do too. But by the time I could actually make a tunnel, because mom wasn't going to help me make a tunnel.
Yeah.
I think we had like one really big snowstorm when we were in high school that was like
In
2
2003.
feet or something. Like, was it 2003?
Well,
No,
I guess we didn't meet you. I didn't meet you till like 2005, 4.
Yeah.
So it was like the year before you moved down there. Never mind. We had the last time we had a storm this big was 2003. So you just barely missed that one. Damn.
Okay.
So yeah. The best you had, I think, was probably like 2 feet or something.
Yeah, and I think it was like just under a foot. I mean, I know school was canceled that day, and I remember trying to make a snowman, and then it got too big, and then I was like, yeah,
Too much effort.
nah,
Yeah.
it's cold. Well, I was trying to carve it and like do something cool, but I had like shovels from gardening shovels, and I'm like, and you try to, you're like, I'm Picasso, and then it actually looks like something Picasso did, and you're like, wow, this is terrible.
I should give up. Yeah.
I do remember, and I'm pretty sure you know who did this. Somebody drove into the fence of our, like, the neighbors across the street.
Oh, right. Yeah. I do remember that. I do remember that.
Hearing that. And then I think I'm pretty sure the people that did it are people that we know.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not to name any names,
anyway,
but it rhymes with. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we had that huge snowstorm, which was really fun to deal with, and then we didn't have to deal with it 24 hours later, which was great. My family all went out of town this weekend. The vacation board was full, so I couldn't go with them, which sucks. And so they're all over in Nebraska for my niece's birthday because she doesn't get to see everyone like ever. So they all went out there, and having a good time, and I'm here just working and jerking it a lot. Just wow, So that's my life, man.
It's a perfect opportunity. Empty house. Cue up the Pornhub.
Yep. Get the surround sound speakers going. Neighbors think I'm just an animal in here.
They're like, I thought they left.
Well, maybe I don't want them thinking I'm an animal. Maybe that's the wrong call.
Your next door neighbor, she winks at you the next time you see her.
Hey, I'm like, no, you're like 80. I'm good.
No.
Appreciate you though. Oh, I had a lady at the gas station tell me I had really nice legs today. That was the highlight of my day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell this story, and then I have one of my own.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm just at the gas station, and I'm going to go use the bathroom. And this lady, she's probably like 45. And so she's trying to get past me, and being, middle of the country, both go, oop, and like sidestep around each other. We giggle because I like do this little like run past her, and I get past and she goes, you have really nice legs. And I was like, well, thank you so much. And she giggles and walks off. And I'm
I do, don't I? You pull your short leg up.
And then she saw the tan line and just the beacons of Gondor were lit up above, It's just, it really ended that moment fast. Let's just say my aim was true Lindsay, in the bathroom. That's all.
See, I always find it hard to do it when that's happening.
It's hard, yeah.
It goes up in an arc, and you're trying to aim it down, and you're like wrestling with it. I like it, fighting back.
You know that scene in the Little Rascals movie when they're trying to put out the fire, and he's on the fire hose, and the fire's like swinging it like it's wow,
yeah,
wow, you're on the ride of your life.
It's like being a rodeo clown.
Yeah, I make sure to put on makeup every time I have an erection before I go pee.
Do you cry it off? That's what you use for lubrication?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Russell left
Tears
me.
Of a sad clown. So it was like my first date with Lindsay. In fact, it wasn't like my first date. It was my first date with Lindsay. There had been this whole series of events. I won't go into it. But we walk into this gas station, and of course I'm wearing tighter pants because, I'm showing off a little bit. And I walk in, and the guy behind the counter goes, those are really nice pants. They make your butt look great. And I was like, because I'm wearing a button down. It's tucked in. I'm trying to look nice for Lindsay. And Lindsay's behind me, and she looked at him, and she looked at me. She just started laughing. And I was like, thanks. Great. Okay. And I just kind of walked back out the door. It was a crusty laugh there.
It was a crusty laugh?
From The Simpsons.
I hate you, Russell. Like, I'm really putting some thought behind this, and I've come to the decision I just really hate you.
I mean, it went from love to hate. It's
that's just our relationship.
It's passion. At least it's passion. Either way.
Yeah. As long as I'm not like I'm indifferent towards you, like I feel like that would hurt the worst.
Then I'd start to worry.
Yeah. You exist in my life. Like, yeah, that felt horrible to say.
Yeah. It felt horrible for it to be directed at.
I love you so much. You're so special to me. Pull yourself together.
I love you. So we were.
Wilson.
I need to watch that movie again. That is a good movie.
It's such a good movie. Who are we tonight?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. We're so far. Okay, there was a topic that we had for this show.
Oh,
and
right.
You worried that we wouldn't be able to fill it with the topic.
Well, I didn't expect us to be this way.
Entire episode.
Yeah. I think this is good. This was needed for us.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been able to discuss.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I really wanted to talk about this, and so I texted Brett and Nick and was like, oh, let's talk about this. And they were both like, nah, we don't want to know. So anyway, but
I have the text if you want me to read it.
No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, it's
Brett is always
what did Nick said, that's a horrible idea, and then I said you should feel bad about yourself.
Right. I did feel bad about myself. Congratulations.
Man, I love sweet victories.
So
what are we talking about?
So I wanted to talk about Dark Alliance, which is a game that's coming out, which is based on D&D canon.
What does D&D stand for?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons!
Apparently you've been watching that lately or listening to it.
Not for a long time, but that is one of the few things that's stuck with me for my life.
It makes me laugh every time.
Every single time.
Yeah. And now they've added a whole bunch of other stuff. Anyway. Okay, sorry. I could get distracted.
Really get it.
I would recommend, if you're into D&D, I would recommend Critical Role. Super awesome. They're fantastic. Anyway, so Dark Alliance, it's this video game which is it's in a style that we haven't seen in a while. But one of the cool things about it is it what?
So I was looking up something and then the sound played.
Oh, okay.
It pertained to what we were doing. Don't worry.
Okay. One of the cool things about it is that this game first of all, it takes place in D&D canon, but it has to do with the Companions of the Hall. So I figured we would kind of talk about that first. What are the Companions of the Hall? What place do they take in D&D lore and that kind of thing? So the Companions of the Hall, they are your typical. They're what
your base for fantasy everything is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're kind of your typical D&D group. You have typically he's a ranger. In the game he's actually a rogue, but typically he's a ranger. You have the barbarian, you have the fighter, and then you have Katie Bree. I think she's kind of a ranger rogue.
Katie Bree, not the eggs. What was she?
I think she was a ranger as well.
Female human. Come on, where is it?
I don't know if she was ever actually attributed to a class.
I don't think so either.
She
I'm
kind
looking.
of,
It says here just fighter.
yeah, I think she took a, so anyway, so this is Dritstoerden, Wolfgar, and
Was it Regis Philbin?
oh yeah, he was the rogue.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it wasn't
yeah.
Regis Philbin, but it was
It was Regis.
it was Regis. I totally forgot about him. He's a halfling. So anyway, there were these series of books to go way back. There were these series of books written by R.A. Salvatore, which is kind of a lot of what made him famous is writing these books. They took place in the Forgotten Realms, which is a Dungeons and Dragons setting. Um, it's a world that was built specifically for Dungeons and Dragons. It's where you have things like the Sword Coast. It's where most of the major events that have taken place in 5th edition have taken place. And you do have characters like Dritz, who is this dark elf. And he is kind of what made, like, he was so popular in the 90s that, like, everybody played a dark elf.
Was it
at one point?
or I guess there's Drow, dark elf. They're the same thing, right?
Or Drow.
Yeah.
So Drow and dark elves are the same. And actually, R.A. Salvatore, he had a big place in kind of creating the mythology behind the Drow. Because up until that point, like, he created Menzoberranzan, which is the capital city of the Drow, in the Underdark. Well, I guess it's technically one of the capital cities, but it's like their main city. And then he made their connection to Lolth,
Yes,
which is their Spider Queen god.
Which is I've got it's a huge tangent.
Okay, go.
Okay, it's
I mean,
it's a tangent / recommendation
tonight?
for you. Okay, so
Sure.
like
Okay.
Drow are awesome, and not enough people use Drow, right? So
Right.
there's this I would highly recommend to you, Russ. They're called Tabletop Champions. They're a podcast that plays D&D, a live D&D thing, kind of like Critical Role, right?
Right.
And so they had this. Oh God, it's so cool. But so they in one of their campaigns, they had the Drow were like heavily involved, and Lolth and their capital city. Like they actually had to go into it at one point, and like all the shit happening there. It was just like they really got into the Drow lore, which I didn't really know a lot of beforehand, which is super cool. But okay, so I'm gonna get super nerdy with you here. Okay.
Yes. Oh, bring it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just straight up D&D mechanics, super nerdy here. That's how cool this was. So they had, I can't remember exactly what they called the worlds, but so they had the party in this campaign on this one world, right? Mm-hmm. And there's the oh crap, I can't remember his name, but he was the dungeon master. And then the next season, the world was literally the same name but spelled backwards, and someone else in the party was the dungeon master, and so then he was a player in the party. And so it turned out they were all connected to each other and had their own big bads moving through, but like stuff that happened in one campaign affected the other one. And then when they got to the end fight, like both the big bads came out. And so like when so both parties met each other. So every character's having to RP talking to their own character in the other group.
Yeah.
And then like, so there's the big battle at the end, and both of the DMs couldn't tell each other certain parts of it because they were a player in the campaign. And so they would take turns like DMing the end fight and then surprise the other DM with stuff. And so it was just a really cool, like, they'd have to switch their characters, classes, voices, RP, depending on whose line of turns it was and who was DMing the fight.
Sure.
And it was just the coolest thing I've ever listened to. It was like a 2-year build-up to this huge fight, and everyone's switching characters and the DM back and forth. And I'm like, I've never experienced anything like this in D&D. This is so cool. Highly recommended. Tabletop Champions.
Well, and that's one of the things that is so beautiful about D&D is the ability to be able to create these stories. Mm-hmm. And that's what R.A. Salvatore tapped into, because in these books he captures, and the one of the most fun things at the table is when somebody rolls a natural one, or it can be, and because some of the crazy stuff that can happen. And in these books, it's almost like he had the battles and was like rolling for the characters to see whether they would be successful or not. And sometimes they were not. Like
At
they
all.
just straight up failed. And it's something that he tapped into with this. As you're reading it, it almost feels like you're playing D&D.
Yeah.
You're living this story through the eyes of the characters, but it feels like you're sitting at home playing on the tabletop game. You don't get to make the choices for the characters, but you feel as if the dice are kind of making the choices for these characters.
Exactly.
And so Drizzt is a drow. So he went back. So the first book that he wrote was called The Crystal Shard.
Not the Dark Crystal. Totally different thing, everybody. Okay. So I'll make sure.
Right. Yeah. And it had to do with this lowly wizard who finds this artifact that this demon is chasing after. And so then the demon, so this lowly wizard finds this artifact, which is this object of a crystal that was created by like 20 liches, like way back in hell. And then the demon's trying to find it, but it gets lost. And so this lowly wizard finds it and like speaking into his mind. So he like creates this orc army and he creates this massive crystal tower. It's a D&D game. So he's the big bad, but he's also, his downfall is his pride because he was a lowly wizard and it's really only the crystal that's made him powerful. So he starts moving into this valley where Bruner Battlehammer lives, which is this dwarf.
He was a king, right?
He was the king of these dwarves.
That's right.
They had left.
His king, because he had like two names, right? Because it was Drizzt, and then his when he used his king title, what was it? King.
I think it was just Bruner.
Yeah. Battlehammer. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Bruner Battlehammer.
Yeah. You probably said
and
that.
He was a dwarf
in a tangent somewhere. Sorry.
That's okay. They had been this clan of dwarves, which has been forced from their ancestral home, because all these characters, they have backstories that it touches on.
Oh yeah.
And he brings that into the later series, but they had been forced from their home in the Mithril Halls, which is the super famous place where nobody knows where it's at anymore because they kept it secret because Mithril is super expensive and dwarves don't like people messing with their stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'm the same. I'm a dwarf. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so they had been forced out by the shadow dragon. Anyway, so Drizzt comes into contact with Bruner. Bruner has adopted Caddy Bree, who is another member of the Companions of the Hall. They're called the Companions of the Hall because later events that take place in the series. Wolfgar is a barbarian that he was part of a clan that came and attacked the 10 Towns, which is this place in Icewind Dale where the most rugged criminal people live. And his right, Wolfgar Dragonsbane, because he defeats a white dragon to seize control of the barbarian hordes and become their king. And he has this magic hammer that he can throw, kind of like Thor's hammer, where he can throw it and then call it back to him.
Yeah, the thing to remember, everyone, is like a lot of the stuff you hear in this story is in a lot of people's minds is very basic fantasy stuff now. But at the time, this was mind-blowing, whoa, Tolkien status, what is happening? Holy shit, this is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was written in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things, while they may have been tropey, even at the time.
Yeah.
They were written well enough.
Exactly.
That it captured a lot of people's imagination. Like me, I read the Drizzt Do'Urden series because then he goes back and he tells kind of the history of Drizzt Do'Urden because he became so popular. And I read that because I didn't have anybody to play D&D with. And so it was my way of living in this world that I really wanted to be a part of, but I wasn't able to find anybody to play with until I was much older. But I was like, oh, this is so cool. I want to play Dungeons and Dragons so bad.
All the time.
Right. Well, now I do, or try to.
Hey,
so
what the F's up with
yes.
your group the other day when I was like, hey, y'all want to play? Russell's too tired. Figure it out. And then no one stepped up to the plate. I was really upset. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I would love to have somebody be. I haven't been able to play in a long time.
I know. That's why I pushed it so
And
hard
so
for you. I'm saying all this
like,
because I know
I'd
none of them
really
listen to this
just like to play.
podcast, so we're gonna talk shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck was up with that?
I
Russ?
would love
They
to be
really
able to
let
play
you
the game.
down.
I don't know. Well, that's why I'm excited to play.
I
in
couldn't
your
even
brother's
sleep that night
campaign.
because I was so ticked off. I was livid, Russell.
I really like how you just you insert yourself into the conversation, and they're like, they just blindly go, oh, okay, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't listen.
I do that all the
Stop.
time. Oh my god!
I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
you do.
It's so much fun because I have my
And
name. You know, it's a different color, and my name's yellow, so they believe me. Hey, what level should my girlfriend be when she starts? I don't know, 37. Cool, thanks. You got it.
And I'm like, why are you listening to this?
Oh man,
Ooh,
can I have
ooh,
7
ooh.
feet? Absolutely.
Yeah. Then they show up, and I'm like, nope, character's dead. All right, moving on.
And they still listen to me. It's amazing.
I know. Well, like the one time you had commented in, and you were like, this is, gosh, we are just tangential today.
I love it. We should probably, after this tangent, we should probably talk about the game instead of the backstory.
Man, but it's such a cool
know.
backstory. Anyway, yeah, you're right. I know it's getting late, but yeah, you came in. I was like, I'm gonna cancel tonight, or I won't be able to DM. Is usually what I say, because then they can play if they want to. And then you were like, yeah, we'll just chat instead. And legitimately, the one guy was like, oh, okay. And then he was like, why isn't anybody here to chat with?
It was so different. And then I made a fake. Would I make a fake link to a Zoom meeting? Yeah, I made a fake link and everything. God, good times. Good times. It's good to be king. It's good to be king.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So anyway, they defeat this guy. Sorry, because this is the last bit. Because this is important to the game. So they defeat the guy with the crystal shard. They're able to save 10 towns for the second time, and then that shard is still there. Like in the book, the last event is Dritz is fighting this evil wizard, and then he, like, as they're fighting, an avalanche collapses. Dritz, who's super dexterous, is able to stay on top of the avalanche, and the wizard gets buried, and so does the crystal shard. But it is still a beacon.
Yes, it
to
still
evil
exists.
Things, right? And that's important to the game, because that's why it's called Dark Alliance, is because you have this dark alliance of creatures that have now come to Tin Towns in search of the crystal shard, because it is a beacon for these evil creatures. And so it has to do with the companions of the call, the companions of the hall, who are these famous adventurers in D&D lore, and now they're being brought into a game, which it's been a long time since we've seen a game like this.
Yeah,
not a game like this, but a D&D based game like this.
Well, the really interesting thing with it is I think I need to watch the trailer again, but it didn't look like it was D&D-esque, like movement action, bonus action, turn-based.
No,
it felt very much like,
and that's why. Yeah.
What was the game I was thinking of when I was watching it? It looked a lot like Dragon Age, like how the camera was controlling all your companions, using your abilities on the fly. Like, I bet there will be probably like a pause, take turns if you want action. But yeah, I got a really heavy, vibe for that direction.
So there's been no mention of being able to pause it. It's the way it looked to me and the way they described it. So it's an action-based RPG. is the way the devs described it. They said it's an action-based RPG. And it's almost Diablo-esque in a certain way, but instead of a top-down camera, you have an over-the-shoulder third-person view. And so you'll have companions. Now, there are only the 4 right now, and that's Dritz. They've put him in the role of a rogue, so he does lots of crit damage and moves very quickly. And because Dritz's famous thing was his 2 scimitars that he fights with. He's a dual wielder. Icing Death and Frostmourne are his 2. No, I'm sorry, Twinkle and Frostmourne are his 2 scimitars that he uses. And then Brunner, who of course is the dwarf Brunner Battlehammer. I think he has a basic shield and axe. I didn't see a lot of his. Most of the combat is actually shot from the perspective of Dritz that we've seen, most of the gameplay. And then Wolfgar, who has his hammer, and so he's the barbarian. He'll be your tank. And then Caddy Bree, who's gonna be the ranger / healer. She's ranged and kind of a support role. So Dritz will be like your DPS. Brunner will probably be like a off tank, and then Wolfgar will be the tank, and then Caddy Bree will be support. So you have those 4 characters. Now that's all that they've said so far, but the story is, that you're playing from the point of view of the companions.
Okay, here we go. Okay, that's what I thought. Hold on. Sorry, I've got to correct you on something. The scimitars were Twinkle and Icing Death.
Okay.
Frostmourne was Arthas's sword from Warcraft.
Oh, that's right.
The second you said it, I was like, no, that's Warcraft. And I was sorry.
I always
had to go
call
look
it
up.
Frostmourne.
Yeah, Icing
Death.
And
I know it's not Frostmourne.
Well, Frostmourne's a way cooler name than Icing Death. That's probably why.
I mean, Icing Death is a lot cooler than Twinkle.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I kind of dig that, like having a cool sword name and then one named Twinkle. You were murdered by Twinkle, and just watch that.
Yeah, I mean, right. So this is supposed to take place right after the Crystal Shard.
Yes.
Or shortly after, because in the next book they go on a journey to find the mithril halls for Brunner. So it and it looks really cool. It's this action RPG. So it's the way that they seem to is it's a Diablo over the shoulder though, and you get equipment that then you can equip. So you can equip the same equipment on different characters. So Brunner, Dritz, but they have different appearances based on who they're being worn by. From what I understand. And there are also RPG elements. You upgrade certain skills and things like that. And from what they said, it's supposed to be a drop in, drop out kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you have people that play with you. Go ahead.
Sorry. I just saw just a random review for it. That's I don't see who it was from. It's on the actual website for Dark Alliance, but I found this interesting because I had the Dragon Age comparison. But this person said Dark Alliance is a D&D themed brawler that feels a bit like Gears of War.
Oh, really?
Which is very interesting because I thoroughly enjoyed the combat and movement, but that was guns. So I'm interested to see if there's going to be like all the arenas seem big, so I don't see it being cover based. I don't know where maybe it's just the movement and rolling and everything of Gears and War.
And the weight.
That could be it,
as you're kind of, because you kind of feel their weight as they move.
That's a really good,
the slash, the combat and the hit. And,
Gears of War was very
visceral.
Kind of
look like that.
I think Nick talked about that a couple weeks ago, actually, where you just felt like in the trenches, you were legitly tearing someone up. So if that's the case, like Dragon Age style combat, but it feels like really intense, like Gears of War, I'm in.
And I think it might be more akin to like Dragon Age Inquisition combat than necessarily Dragon Age.
Yeah, sorry,
because,
I should have made that.
With Dragon Age, it was still kind of that cooldown system.
True.
But I'm pretty sure in this one, like there are cooldowns, but it's much more akin to Dragon Age Inquisition.
And I should have. When I said Dragon Age, I meant Inquisition. You're right. I should have
And
There you go, Fudd, you big dummy. Sorry, had to get
but
that out.
the animation looks really good
It
too.
does. Who I'm trying to figure out who made this game. Like the actual studio.
It was you'll have to look it up. I can't remember. I know it starts with a T.
I'll find it.
So you brought that up. The cool thing is this
Took Games? Took Tuque.
Yeah, they've made some other games. If you want to look it up, they've made some other games that
I'm looking.
I like should ring a bell.
Live.
The cool thing was because I was watching like the dev diaries, and they decided they really wanted to make this game, and so they started making it, and they went to Wizards of the Coast, and Wizards of the Coast was like, no. And they just decided, well, we're just going to keep making the game as if we've been greenlit and really hope that we get greenlit at one point because we're so passionate about making this game. So they continued making the game. And so they went to Wizards of the Coast again, and they're like, see, look, it could be awesome. And they're like, no. And they're like, please, we'll work with any publisher that you want us to. It doesn't matter. We're just please let us make this game. And so they were finally like, so apparently Wizards of the Coast is like, all right, we're going to let you make this game. But we, Wizards of the Coast, are going to publish it. And not only that, we're going to double your budget to make this game.
Man, isn't it so nice that Dungeons & Dragons has gotten really popular over the last 5 years, so the money's there to do this stuff?
Well, and that's the thing. So I think Wizards of the Coast is starting to move into their own publishing company. I'm hoping so that they can make more D&D based games because there is such a plethora of lore, and I just want an open world D&D game.
How dare you? That was the magic words.
I really want that, and this is a step in the right direction because Wizards of the Coast is starting to get into publishing video games. This is it feels, because this game is releasing at, I believe it's $49.99.
It is
for
releasing
PS5, PS4.
I had it. I think it was $39.99 actually.
Okay. And I think you're right. I couldn't remember if it was $39.99 or $49.99.
I had it. Hold on. I was looking up there. It's on their website. They only show one other game they've made, which looks really cool too. It's like a top-down, futuristic, kind of like scroller, kind of like a lot like legitly Diablo, but like a futuristic kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the standard edition will be $39.99, and the digital deluxe.
Oh yeah, and then there are other editions. Right, and apparently they're planning on supporting this for a little while with expansions and things like that.
Yeah, if you get the digital deluxe, you get the first expansion.
Yeah,
and it's still cheap.
Yeah,
that's a normal price game. Yeah, $60.
Yeah, and I mean that's why I'm looking forward to it. First of all, it's at a good price point.
Yeah.
Secondly, it looks like it's gonna be fun. I mean. It's got that kind of grinding element where you're trying to grind and get the gear and build the thing. It's not a game as a live service, that kind of thing. It's not an MMO. So it shouldn't get bogged down by that, especially because it's being published by Wizards of the Coast.
Exactly. And it's been a while. I mean, like, honestly, like one of your favorite games, Shadows of Mordor, is probably like one of the last times we had like a third-person fantasy RPG, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a couple, but none that have been like
not a fantasy RPG.
There's been a lot of like medieval kind of stuff, but not like a fantasy art, like a straight up like fantasy. Yeah.
Because the closest thing I can think of right off the top of my head is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Because it does have some fantasy elements.
Yeah, but
I don't know if I'd necessarily classify it.
Yeah.
Because it's very heavily in the historical. You're not like getting magic powers where you're calling lightning down.
Exactly.
Although I'm really close to getting Thor's hammer, but that's another story for another time. I've been sinking so much time into that. That's
but yeah, there's just like one trailer, right? And not a whole lot of info, but off what we have, like, It looks good. Gears of War, Dragon Age Inquisition-esque kind of things to look forward to. Dungeons and Dragons world with abilities, some characters from like old lore. And it's cheaper than like a regular full-on release. It's hard to say no to that, man.
Well, and it feels like a primer to more to come.
Exactly.
Because it's like, here is this thing that we're going to put out. It's $39.99, which will get people interested. It'll bring a lot of people that maybe aren't playing Dungeons and Dragons and get them associated with some of the lore, so that when we push out maybe a bigger game that's open world and a AAA title, then we've already established ourselves as a good publisher.
Yeah, and that's another one thing. Like, if you want to see more Dungeons and Dragons games, like, we need to support this. Like, this is 100%. It looks like what you said, a feeler. Is this something that can happen? And
yeah,
and it's a great time, day and age, for this to happen, because we had, what was that? Was that Divinity Original Sin? Is that the game?
Divinity Original Sin,
and then
2
yeah,
is the
it
one
was huge. Like, a lot of people. I mean,
right.
Like Shroud, like one of the biggest streamers out there, he played that thing a ton, which gets people into D&D. And that's because at first you look at something like that and someone goes turn-based, and then you start getting into it and realizing like how you have to tactically think about everything you do, and watching that dice roll and going, please. And then obviously more recently, Baldur's Gate 3, and fantastic game. And I personally know like 3 or 4 people that started playing actual D&D because they started playing that game. And they're like, I really dig this combat and this world. And this, like, I think they mentioned one of the first times you actually had like you had to make some sort of check when you're talking to someone, and that dice rolled.
Yeah.
And they're like, I understood that feeling finally of watching that roll, and you're like, come on, and whether it hit one way or the other, like, they're like, I understand this now. And that got them into playing.
And that was the beautiful that is, because Baldur's Gate, we haven't even gotten the full game yet.
I know.
It's just the introduction. And it captured, because I was excited to play it, and then I'm actually playing it, and I'm like, it's like I'm playing D&D.
And it's so good.
It is so good, so well voice acted.
100%.
They've got these cool twists. Like, I remember, like, I think, I don't remember. Did we talk about Baldur's Gate already?
We did, yeah.
I don't think we have.
No.
Oh, we did.
Wait,
we did.
No. Did we? I mean, it came out when we weren't doing a show.
Yeah.
So we might have just talked about it, but I don't think we talked about it on the show.
I think so. Like, there was this cool thing where you could enter these ruins by a couple of different pathways. Like, Brett and I were talking about it, and he went in the front door. And then I found out that if you go just down the cliff and around, you can go in the back way. And if you go in the back way, like, all these skeletons pop out of this crypt, and you have to succeed on a check to be able to find this hidden chamber that has a freaking lich in it that shows up and is like, what is life worth to you? And I'm like,
what's happening here?
Yeah. And I'm like, and then he's like, we'll talk again soon. And I'm like, I hope not. You're freaky. And then you move on from there, and the choices that you can make are so good. I mean, you're still limited. Like, you have certain choices that you can make for what you're going to say.
Oh yeah.
But as far as a video game goes, it captured playing D&D.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing, like, it's such a small mechanic, but I get addicted to it. Like, when you make a decision and it does the, like, X party member approves, X party member disapproves, and that shit gets me. I'm like, oh fuck, now I gotta go do something nice for this person so they'll like me now. Or you always have that one person, you're like, I don't give a shit how you feel. I hope you fall in a hole and die, and so you just purposely are doing, even if they have a good idea, you're like, we're not doing that because they said it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and like, for some reason, I really wanted my character to romance the Githyanki girl.
Oh, yeah.
Who is a total dick
to everyone.
For some reason, I'm like, she just is awesome. Like, I don't know why, But for some reason, I'm like, you're legit. Like, you don't give a crap. Yeah, and so I'm hoping this brings it, because it's an action oriented game. So where we've got the turn based with Baldur's Gate, now we're getting this action, and I'm hoping we see more titles. I mean, because Forgotten Realms, Idle Champions.
Oh yeah.
That's a pretty big. It's a browser game.
Yeah.
To be able to play from your phone, and it's got that turn based combat. It's apparently pretty popular. I mean, it's the perfect time for Wizards of the Coast to start putting out D&D video games, because it already breeds itself as that kind of thing. And if you can capture that and put it into something, my dream would be to capture that, put it into something that is an action-oriented title.
Yes.
Or an action RPG open world thing, like along the veins of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay. Russ, I have thought if a game came out that was the legit, like the open world aspect of Red Dead Online, right? Mm-hmm. But it was fucking swords and bows and magic, and I could customize my guy and go do quests and like
ride dragons
and out
of the sky,
just to get on a horse in armor with like a cloak billowing behind me and a sword on my side and ride across the map, I'd be a happy man. Red Dead Online, fantasy. That's all I want. That's my fantasy.
I want it to be third person.
Yeah, it has to be.
I like, because Skyrim is great. It's a fantastic game. And I think it's as close as we've come to that action-oriented open world RPG.
Where it kind of has everything in one package, yeah. But the third person sucks.
Yeah. I would love to have something, because I want to be able to create that character and then see that. I love third person because I can create something and then see it.
That's exactly the same way. Why do you want a cool looking character if you never fucking see them?
Right.
What's the point?
Well, because in Skyrim, they all look retarded slightly, no matter what you do. So let's be honest. Every time I try to create a character in Skyrim, I'm like, why is he cross-eyed? What is happening? There's a huge dent.
Well, because you made him a fighter. He's been smacked in the face a few times.
But yes, I want that. That image that you talked about, with suiting up in your armor, having your horse that you've bought, and just riding across the landscape with your cloak billowing out behind you. And then just the dragon flies overhead.
Dude, yes. Like a world event, Or so one of my favorite things in Red Dead, right, is to go hunting. Do that with a longbow or a crossbow, and it's D&D creatures you're hunting and carving up and taking into town to sell off.
Or to make your own magical equipment, because you've befriended an artificer, and you can go in and meet them, and then you have to build the relationships. I mean, it would be a huge game, but with the next gen stuff that they've come out with and where PCs are at, it's achievable.
That's the fact. Red Dead Online exists, which tells me that this can exist. Just someone needs to be as passionate as we are and just make that. If Rockstar made even if they just did like Red Dead, like their next title was like that, like Red Dead Redemption 2's campaign even, but like it doesn't have to be fantasy. Even if they just did a medieval game like that. Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. I would love that.
So that is one of my dreams, because and you, I mean, we're such big sword and sorcery fans.
It's huge.
And to have, because there's a player base.
Yeah.
There's a player base out there for it. There's a player base that's screaming for it. Because something with good, legit combat. Skyrim is a lot of fun. Combat
and
is
the other
not
thing
great.
with that too is there's also a group of people that aren't even video gamers, that it's a huge audience where if something existed like that, they would then get into it to then experience it.
Yeah.
That'd be a huge market. of people that don't even game that would then start. Brother, I can't stand up or we'd be banned from Twitch. I am erect right now.
Yeah.
No, legit.
And
every time I play Red Dead, that's all I think about. I wish there was a sword on my side.
Yeah.
I wish this billowing coat was a cloak.
How cool would that be? So I think you sent me a trailer for it. One of the games that I'm most excited about coming out is Crimson Desert.
Yes. Is that
because
Crimson? Yeah, Crimson Desert.
It is Crimson because it's Black Desert is their
Black
MMO,
Desert,
and then this one is supposed to be like a single player focused fantasy.
I haven't been able to really talk to you about what'd you think of that trailer?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Since we're on the subject,
yeah. Well,
so I was like,
go for it.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, because I played Black Desert Online. I really enjoyed it. It's just
right.
The end game was world bosses and that was it. And I'm like, I want dungeons and raids, which is fine. But the leveling's gorgeous game. The combat was absolutely incredible. It was an MMO you would have enjoyed because it was just like extremely fast paced. You're not like waiting on cooldowns the whole time and everything you hate about an MMO they didn't do. But so they announced Crimson Desert and I'm like, is this another MMO? But it's just Jesus, you okay? You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Russ is really excited. Okay, he's literally dying and he's gone. Folks, he's flatlining right now. I see paramedics coming in the door behind him. They're now teabagging Russell. What the F?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just gonna be this badass large scale fantasy RPG that with elements that they've been successful in their MMO implemented into it. And it looks gorgeous. Obviously, the graphics are insane.
Right.
But the character design, the weapon design, the monster design, the voice acting, that's my most excited. Is there an actual launch date for that yet? That's my, I am super pumped for that one.
Well, and you talked about the cloak billowing behind you as you ride. And the combat, it shows the cloak moving, and I'm like, frick, that's cool. Because it's very action based, and then it shows orcs and these different creatures. So at first I'm like, oh, it's a medieval RPG. That's cool. I'd be into that. And then it started showing these medieval creatures and talking about stuff that they didn't show in gameplay, but things that they want to implement with different classes and things like that. And I'm like, oh, baby, give it to me good.
It's gonna be a big game, and it's another one of those BioWare-esque where your decisions matter and change the world around you, and it is absolutely open. And dude, yeah, I'm so excited for this game.
It looks really good. And and then there was a trailer that came out a while back, and I think it's a Dragon's Dogma 2.
Oh yeah,
I don't know because they haven't announced it and they haven't really said much about it, but I'm like, because Dragon's Dogma was such a good game. And if they do a second one, please give it to me.
I would like it. Whoa. Developing it right now.
What are they developing right now?
I'm going Crimson to Desert? So I can put it in your mouth.
Oh, okay.
Dragon. Well, yeah, they're developing Crimson Desert right now. Hence why they've been able to give trailers for it. You big dumb.
Yeah. And it was so funny because you sent it and you were like, Russell, you'll like this. And I was like, because I hardly ever watch things that people send over to me. I do, but usually not in a time frame. But I was like,
and I don't send a lot of stuff, which is why I figured it'd be really special.
And so I clicked it, and as I was watching it, I was like, oh, and I was kind of doing something, and then I did the double take. I was like, oh, what is this magic?
Yes.
Oh, and it has good. Destructible environments. It looks like, and yes,
yeah, dude, it's gonna be good.
And all of this to say that I hope that this is just a starting ground for Wizards of the Coast, that they do eventually release a AAA open world fantasy action RPG, because
and then eventually we get an actual good D&D movie.
Oh gosh, Joe
Menagerie.
I honestly cannot say his last name to save my life.
I don't think he
Fantastic actor. I really wish I could pronounce it. Manganiello, I think is how you say it.
Meningitis.
Anyway, yeah. He's been trying to push one through for a long time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like Warner Brothers was on board with it, but then they lost the license. And
the other cool thing
he's a huge D&D guy.
Yeah. Well, with how big D&D's gotten, there's a lot of big name celebrities that are like, hey, fun fact, this is something I'm really into. That like, it was not the cool thing for such a long time.
Oh yeah.
That everyone was a closet D&D player, and like now that it's cool, like everyone's coming forward. It's like, yeah, I run these super sick campaigns. Come check this shit out. Right. So the interest is 100% there.
Oh yeah. And then you have people, well, and I mean, look at what Critical Role did. So I think going back to this, because Critical Role, they built a fan base, and then their Kickstarter is really what I'm referring to. Their Kickstarter for their animated series.
Yeah.
$11 million, which was 10 times what they had originally intended,
and
like their
fast. Goal. Like they couldn't even make goals fast enough.
Quick.
Yeah.
It smashed every goal. $11 million. The fans screaming and crying for this, and they had shopped it to every production company, and every production company said no. And then they get $11 million, and Amazon goes, hey, we'd like a piece of that. We'll give you more money if you make an entire season for us, and then we'll go from there.
So good, dude. Oh.
So it really is. Dungeons and Dragons, and those of us who love Dungeons and Dragons, it is primed on this precipice of where it could be the next Marvel if they play their cards right and they do things right. And I honestly think it could be this next thing, which since Tolkien, we haven't had. I mean, I enjoyed King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. Mm-hmm. Sorry, this has kind of turned into a different topic.
What was since Lord of the Rings? What was that? Game of Thrones, I guess, is the last thing that happened.
It's the last popular medieval fantasy thing that happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, I enjoyed King Arthur, Legend of the Sword.
Stop rocking back and forth in your chair.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. Let's get in. Yeah. I am so excited. For those of you who are not watching the show, I am like, yes.
It sounds like an Old West couple are having sex behind them. I know.
Sorry. I just get so excited about these kinds of things. I mean, obviously it's there. Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones did so well.
And, obviously until they ended it. And everyone, it's an interesting thing. It was the biggest thing in television history until the finale, and now no one talks about
it.
Sucks.
Honestly, a lot of people were disappointed in it. Yeah. I watched it from the beginning to the end in a straight shot.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even watch it until it was done.
Yeah.
The ending to me makes total sense when you watch it all the way through without the breaks. And you can see it the whole way through, exactly what's going to happen. Daenerys was crazy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Straight, the way they portrayed her in the show, and I don't know if this is the way George R.R. Martin's going to go or if it's just the way the showrunners decided to go. She was not a good monarch. She was straight up. I mean, she had a lot of good qualities. She really wanted to care for people. But her vengeance, oh, buddy.
Next level.
She was... I mean, she basically burned down a city. She really didn't know how to manage people. Even in the book, she's like, I don't know what to do. And she gets paralyzed in this city where she can't move on. She can't do anything because she's stuck there. Because she's trying to care for people, but she can't do it. She's just making things worse. It's something that they really... Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I could go on.
But no, when it was live...
It was.
That was... no joke, everyone was watching it. Everyone was talking about it. People who you'd never thought would be into this fantasy swords and dragons and magic shit was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. So again, people want, or so many people are closeted about this and want to enjoy it. And the more mainstream, which we made the same point over and over tonight, the more mainstream this can become, the more open people can be.
Yeah.
Just like a good example you had earlier with Marvel. Being, a Marvel fan, a comic book fan, a nerd, right, was everyone closeted it because you were bullied horror. It was an uncool thing. And then it became mainstream. And Marvel, obviously everyone knows how huge that is. They're on what is this, section 4 of all their shit going on? Exactly. And it's become such this huge phenomenon that people who would never admit to it are like, they have lore videos out, right? And shit. And like people are coming out and finding out this is super cool and getting into it. Same thing with D&D. It's growing so fast in that air quotes cool spectrum that we can see it snowballing forward. And I really do agree with you that this could become another Marvel for that exact same reason.
Well, so you look at Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings those movies were so popular.
I need to watch those again, man. I've been thinking about that.
And there's a lot of lore, but it is rather focused, Lord of the Rings. And now they're starting to branch out into other things. I mean, Amazon has an upcoming Lord of the Rings thing that takes place with Sauron a long time ago. Amazon has really picked up on this fantasy. Yeah, and they've picked up on this fantasy push.
Fantasy?
Carnival Row.
Oh, dude.
They've got Critical Role that they've got coming out. They've got the Lord of the Rings that's coming out. They've started to pick up on this fantasy trend that really started to pick up on. And they've got a lot of shows. And I think they're going to be the front runners as we go forward. They're going to start introducing a lot of things and people are going to go, oh my gosh,
this
is a huge market.
Yeah.
Why hasn't anybody done anything with this? And D&D has so much stuff out there that they could just pick and choose and like Marvel.
Yeah, exactly.
And they could just eat it up and develop their own thing and then go with it and boom, you've got another Marvel on your hands. And it's, depending on which publisher picks it up, you just got to put the people with passion in charge.
Yeah. And it's
passion
even to another
and
level. Talent, yes, and talent and the know-how, the business, and everything. But it's almost to another level because, a lot of the Marvel storylines we get, it's with years and years of comic book outshoots and stuff. Like there's so many of those stories they can pick and choose from, right? To grab and then make a movie or a different timeline or whatever is going on. But with D&D, once you get the base thing set, you can just make it up, do whatever the fuck you want after that. And that's the beauty of it it's absolute creative freedom. Once you set a base stone down for it, you just go. And that's what's made it so popular.
Well, and you just use this world and that's what people have done for so long, Forgotten Realms. And then you go, okay. And I mean, look, I have 10 different things with stories and ideas in it. And they go, oh, that's cool. A dragon heist where they go and you could have a heist movie in D&D.
Yeah.
And then
fantasy heist
you could have another movie.
That would be amazing.
And then you could like a Storm King's Thunder or even Dragon Queen's Horde. Horde of the Dragon Queen, which granted wasn't the greatest written one, but it's a cool concept where they're raising Tiamat and you're like, oh, or the Curse of Strahd. You could have you could fit it into so many genres, which is kind of what Marvel has done. They've kind of fit into all these different genres as they've grown this movie production. And you could do that with D&D. I'm sorry. Okay, we got
don't
off
apologize at all. That was amazing.
I mean, we have gone off on a totally different thing than what I originally intended, but I like this so much more.
We went off on exactly what was intended. We were talking about video games and D&D, and we just totally nailed that. Yeah.
Man, I really hope they do because there's so much that they could pull from.
It's a literal unlimited supply. We're making faces and throwing our hands in the air right now, everybody. It's so true.
Tomb of Acererak.
Yeah.
The Tomb of Horrors. I mean, that could be a movie in and of itself.
Dude, I
mean,
could go to D&D Beyond right now and just look at a list of all the campaigns you can just get from them, and that's 30 movies right there.
well, and then you have these directors and actors that have
TV
their own
shows,
home
shorts.
games.
Yeah.
That they could bring that to the creative table and say, oh, this is a cool thing that happened. Like, how cool would it be to have a scene in a movie where the party is captured by an Umber Hulk and one of the guys throws a love filter into its mouth on accident, and then the thing falls in love with it and they're able to escape. And that was something that happened in my home campaign.
Oh yeah.
Or how funny would it be to, you're riding in a wagon and you point out that, one of the characters points out that there's torches and the other orc goes, and the
Looks
one guy
like torches.
goes, yeah, what does that look like to you, Moosecock? And he's like, it looks like
torches.
I mean,
Sad wagons go slow. Yeah.
I think there are these there are these moments that have happened in everyone's game where if you get the people with passion, they're more than willing to bring that to the creative table and go,
exactly.
This would be a funny thing that we could include in this movie that would, and of course it's all about, making sure it fits and you got to have the right writers. But
oh yeah. I had a story, like I've had one shots that were so good.
Mm-hmm.
They could be a whole thing. Like one, I mean, I think I told the story for Storytime one time where like we all accidentally caused, like everything went wrong. Right. And everyone's dying. And like my character had like his legs cut off. He was like, his spine was cut out of his back mid combat, like had one eye at one, like everything went wrong. And he just like used the momentum of falling off something to just barely chuck an axe. And because of a good roll, it slammed into the big bad and killed it. And the last surviving party member went sick as everyone died and took all the money and walked away. Like, shit, like that's a one shot, and that could be its own huge thing.
Well, and that's the thing. I think there's a creative touchstone.
Yeah.
For writers to come into this and go, this is something that happened in my campaign. I'd like to paint the picture of it for everybody else. And then it creates a touchstone for those who are viewing it to go, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is so cool. Like I've sat here and I've played this game and now it's here. And I think that could create, I think they could create something very special out of it if they ever went.
You just have to get 5 people together and each of them tells one story from their campaign, combine it all together, you're good. Like, it'd be so easy.
Also a crap ton of money.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy. You just grab 5 random people, say, hey, tell me a story, write it down. You've got the whole script already fucking written for you. Complete with the voices. Like, it's, what? Like, it'd be so easy.
And I think that if they could tie it together in the way that Marvel has created this universe, they could go multimedia very quickly.
Dude, I'm just picturing like, that fucking Marvel intro that happens, and it's just that D&D symbol, with lights glinting off it as it goes across the screen with this epic fantasy score going, and a dragon flies through the middle of the D and shoots flames right at the screen and dips up, and like that cuts away into the first scene of whatever's happening. Oh,
The first time that they show the yawning portal on film,
brother,
I'm gonna jizz right in my
yeah. I'm gonna look at Lisa and go, I don't need you for another week, babe. Sorry. Shit. All right,
man.
Anything else there you want to hit on?
No, I think I'm pooped.
Dude, I feel wiped. We just got really passionate for like 45 minutes straight.
Yeah. Congratulations, everybody who's still here and listening.
You survived this.
Yeah, man, it was just Elmer and I just
our feelings and thoughts about what could happen in the future. Blah. Yeah. Well,
it gets me excited, and I think it would get a lot of people excited.
I agree.
I think that would be.
Do you know other people are very excited for it, Russ?
The end of the show?
Story time. The part of the show where we come together and we tell a story in gaming from our past, maybe more recent, Doesn't have to be video games. It could be tabletop, paper. We ended up doing airsoft. It's a game. Anything we want. We're very nostalgic on the show, and this is one of my favorite segments we have. Story time. Do you want to go first, or I've got one if you want?
You go ahead. I'm still noodling.
You're gonna enjoy it. So I figured, due to what we're talking about, that story time, I would tell a D&D story.
Yes. Okay.
All right, Russ, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
When people ask me, Russ, you like D&D? I'm like, yes. And then, like the last 45 minutes, what happened on the show, I do to them. And they go, okay, wow, you're crazy. Never talk to me again. But if they do hang around, they will ask me, what is your favorite moment that you have ever experienced in Dungeons and Dragons? And this following story is what I tell them.
Is your favorite moment?
Every time, Russell. My favorite ever thing that I've gone through in Dungeons and Dragons, right? So there's this tower, right? And it's destroyed the world, right? It's kind of my fault. So we go back to this town and it's just overrun with undead and all this shit, right? We find this, this underground, underneath the blacksmith shop, where everyone's held off, right? And we're like, all right, we're going to help take this town back. And the following sequence of events is hands down the coolest shit. So my character was very tactically minded. Like, he was a mercenary, came from that. Mm-hmm. And so we banded all the town, I can't remember who gave the speech, but someone gave a speech which got the entire town involved, which was nuts. So there was a central square, right? And then the building where the air quotes bad was at, which I kind of ruined that encounter. Sorry, Russ. I don't know if you remember that. That would be the end of the story. But so there's a ton of undead in this square, right? And so we're figuring out like what kind of buildings are in the area, what kind of levels. We discover we have these like explosive barrels. And so I get this idea to set these up strategically in 3 corners, or no, heavily in one corner and a bunch in other corners. And then we'd create a diversion to bring a bunch of undead through this one spot and then blow it up. And then we had the rest of the village and the rest of the party would climb up on the rooftops and then just fire arrows in from the high ground and hopefully wipe out as many of these things as we can. So there's less to worry about. We can plow through to the big bad. Somehow the rolls went perfectly. A shit ton of undead follow through. No one tripped getting through the rubble. Undead come in, all the explosives go off. I think it was like 80% of them died in the explosion, which was incredible. How you explained, like, by the way, Russell was the DM for this. The chaos and everything happening. And then we had another roll for like how many of the villagers were like successful in their arrows. It was like 90% of them were successful too. So by the time we actually had to go into the middle area to fight what was left over, it was like 3 dudes, which we just chopped down, right? Mm-hmm. And then we walk into the room and there's this like spectral guy who it turns out was like a new enemy they'd added to the game, I guess, where if he like survives past 1 turn, suddenly becomes this horrible thing, but has no health in his present state. Right. If I remember this correctly. And I fired a hand crossbow at him, just and it hit, and I think it critted him, which then immediately killed the bad that we're supposed to have this huge epic fight with. And you were so upset because you were like so excited to introduce this enemy archetype to us. And it was just like gone in 1 turn. But the whole like the planning session, the RP that went into it, discussing it with the villagers, getting them set up, getting everything where it needed to be. Cause we had to get in depth, like who did what, commanding villagers to get on which rooftops, getting arrows out to everyone, the explosives placed, everything had to be perfect. It was like 2 hours of the session was just getting set up for that moment. And then having everything go flawlessly from there was the coolest thing I've ever experienced in Dungeons and Dragons.
It was like to sit there and listen as the DM, as you guys went through this. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's really neat. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a thing. I think it was a cloak that was meant to add That was the extra thing.
Okay,
It was
yeah.
supposed to be a cloak that came off of him and added a little bit to the encounter, and yeah, you just straight up killed it. I was like, man, oh, okay,
That's over. Yeah.
that thing's dead.
Yeah.
Because it was it was a bone naga. It was a bone
That's
naga and
right.
a wizard.
And a wizard,
And I
yeah.
think you killed the bone naga like super, super early.
Just
You got
immediately.
some crazy thing off.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that didn't get to do any of its cool stuff.
And then we killed the wizard like super fast and then questioned him and then moved on from there. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was what was your brother's character's name?
This is like 3 years ago, man. I don't remember.
I know. Yeah, it was his mentor.
I'll look.
I knew that much.
Maybe it's on my I still have my character sheet. I'll look.
So while you're looking that up, I'll tell my story. It is also a D&D story.
What?
It is, of which I was a DM, and it was the chain of events was hilarious. So the characters, they were I was the theme for this campaign was they were part of like Sauron's army after Sauron got killed, and then like the whole army disbands and they're like, what the crap. So they are approaching like the Black Gates, where the armies of good have built an encampment because they're trying to free this warlock that they're torturing. And so it's like this wooden palisade and things like that. And so it's important because the fortifications had like all these jutted spikes because it was a fortification built to withstand like if anybody tried to charge in. So first of all, they made their way in through a sewer, which was interesting enough, and they came up in this outhouse. And then so they're trying to be stealthy because it's like this whole army. And the one guy, he's like, I'm human, they're human, I'll just approach them and tell them I'm part of the army. And I'm like, because as a DM, you're like, okay, well, how would these people react? And it's a heavily fortified position where they know the enemy had humans in it, and they're trying to protect against it. And so it's pretty tight knit. Like everybody knows who this other person is. It's not like somebody showing up and being like, I'm on your side. And they'd be like, so he approaches them and he's like, I'm a human, we're friends. And they're like, who are you? Like, what's your call sign? What squadron are you from? And he's like, I'm new. I'm here to be a translator. And they're like, we didn't get any orders about this. And so they immediately try to capture him. He had, I think at some point he smeared himself with like mud and oil. Oh, that's right. They had climbed through the sewage, so they were covered in feces and other things. And so they get in this grappling when he's like, well, I'm slick from it. So he slips out. The other person's laying down fog. So now they know there's a magic user. This whole thing just goes to crap as they're like, because they tried to bluff their way out of it. And so the whole thing goes to crap. They're getting fired upon from these turrets that are up on the sides of these walls because it's a heavily fortified encampment. The whole, like the barracks are joining in, like 30 people are charging in. Against like these three guys. So the two that are still kind of hidden, like they really only know the one guy's there, so they're just firing on this one guy who happened to be a barbarian, so he's tanking all of these hits, and he's slippery, and he's a barbarian monk, so he's just like slipping out of all these grapples. He ends up running, so he just straight up abandons the rest of his party. He's at, I kid you not. So he decides, he runs up the turret. He's a monk, so he just speeds up the turret. He throws a rope around this guy, and he jumps off the side of the turret, using him as an anchor to kind of slide down. So he slides down, hits the like the spikes, the heavy wooden spikes jutting out.
Yeah.
He escapes with one hit point from this mess, gets the other 2 people captured in the process, and books it out of there, gets a long rest hiding in the mountains and the crags while they've captured the other 2 party members, because it was 3 guys against 30, and I'm like, I don't know how they're going to get out of this, because I'm like, as a DM, you're like, I don't really want the players to die.
Yeah.
But logically, what would happen in this situation? Well, it's like, okay, well, they'll get captured because they would want to try to pull information out of them. But the player just, through a series of amazing rolls, like ropes the guy, use him as an anchor to like slide down to the ground to take half damage as he hits the spikes, pulls himself off of the spikes, and is able to manage to escape with 1 freaking hit point.
Jesus.
It was amazing. It was awesome. And just the way, because he like basically runs up the ladder. He just, and then he had this rope, and he just kind of throws it around the guy and slides down onto the spikes. It was cool.
That's so badass, dude. Holy shit.
It was pretty cool.
Fuck. I love Dungeons and Dragons, brother.
I do too.
Oh,
I do too. It's lovely.
Dude, I think that's it, folks.
I think that's it.
We don't have any other emails. You just got the one from Laz for the ad read.
Laz, thank you for the ad reads. They are always amazing, and you do a great job.
And I hope your hangover isn't too bad tomorrow.
Me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Clear Night, thanks for sticking around, man.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, dude. You're beautiful. Well,
you are beautiful.
You're also beautiful, Russell. And in the future, where can the good people, the good listeners of the Just Some Guardians podcast find you?
You can find me on Twitch at
Twitter.
Yeah, because I'm not a Twitch streamer.
Yeah,
Twitter. I'm at Twitter.
I got you.
Maybe when I get my PC. But mostly, I just want to join in with you and game with you, man.
Dude, do it. That's all I want. That's all I want.
I will have almost enough for my casing.
Yes.
After this week.
Dude, I'm excited. Anyway, where can they find you?
Yeah, that thing.
Yep.
You can find me at drjex. That's JEX0725 on Twitter. Honestly, I like a lot of art, and then I post some of mine when I actually have time to draw. Right now I'm working on finishing Mythos, and then I'm also working on my character for your brother's campaign, his name is Simon King.
Garfunkel. Oh.
Or Simon the Diamond.
I love it.
Riverboat gambler.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Who grew up in a circus and whose dad was an escapist.
Do you have a voice yet? Or are you still working on it?
I'm still kind of thinking. I think softly British, maybe a little Irish, but I also don't do accents very well.
I still, I mean, it's not story time, but his last campaign he ran, right? Me and you torturing that guy is something I will always hold near and dear to my heart.
Oh my gosh, because you were playing the paranoid dude.
I was the absolute nutty, like the government's against us. Look out, cameras, cell phones, satellites, right? And yeah. And the rest of the party was like, we don't want nothing to do with this. And me and you were like, all right, we got it. And just absolutely fucked this guy up.
Because I was playing the Southern professor.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Who was a straight up maniac, straight up psychopath. Yeah, that was a super fun game. I'm gonna play it a little more tame with Simon, but it depends. It depends on if you play with us. If I make things a little crazier.
I hear you. It was a lot of fun to play an absolute nut job who just talked really fast and wanted to kill everything. That was a lot of fun.
Oh man. That campaign was a lot of fun, and I was so excited to continue it because it had, and you could tell, like Clay, it had just gone way off the rails.
Oh, so fast from the beginning when he's like, people show up and my guy rolls across the hood of a car, and then pulls an assault rifle out of the duffel bag he'd had the whole time. I think that moment, Clay was all right, this is going nutty now.
Or when I blew up were you there for that? I think I blew up the room with a coffee creamer and a spark.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good times.
Anyway, DRJX0725. I mostly post art. I'm working on Simon King. And then he's got a gold tooth. He's kind of anyway. And then so I post some of my art on there. That's usually if I comment, I will either comment on something that Brett said.
Oh,
I love him.
I love you.
Or I will post art. We love each other.
It's true.
And you can also find me on the Discord.
Yep.
Jackal7250. I'm it depends on the day. If I have time, I contribute. If I don't, I don't.
Then he doesn't. It's okay. When you do contribute, it's gorgeous.
Wow.
You make the world a better place. Put a smile on your face.
You make my world a better place.
Thank you, dude. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for episode 96 of Just Some Guardians. We're 4 away from 100, Russ.
Oh my gosh.
4 away from doing 100 of these episodes.
What are we going to do for 100?
I have to figure that it has to be a huge game show with a ton of people.
Okay.
And I'm going to figure it out. We'll figure it out. Anyway, when we do the show, we are live at twitch.tv/JustSomeGuardians, Friday nights at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come check us out. Come hang out. Ask questions in the chat. We will absolutely answer those live on the show. Any feedback you have, we'll bring it in to the conversation we're currently having, to a conversation we're not having. We're absolutely all about that. You can email us justsomeguardians@gmail.com. Same thing, questions, comments, anything you want. We love it. Go to our website, justsomeguardians.com. There we have embedded the Twitch, the RSS feed for the podcast, and our YouTube. All of that's there. One-stop shop. Check it all out. Love it, crave it, cherish it. As for myself, I'm ElmmerFudd. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, all those places at ElmmerFudd Games. Double D. Russell, take us out.
I'll take us out like velvet on a ripe plum.
God damn it.
Join us next week on Just Some Guardians for mutual chaos and utter incompetency.
Where did that saying even come from?
I just made it up, but now it's hilarious.
It's amazing. It's not, but it is. I don't understand it.
It doesn't make any sense, but it does a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like
it's one of those things where, like, someone will make a description and you're like, oh yeah, I totally immediately get that. And that's one of those you're like, I kind of want to go test that to see how smooth that really is.
Yeah. What would this actually feel like?
Yeah. I think we're gonna have to figure that out.
I think we are. We'll do it on the microphone.
That sounds terrible.
Although I'm wondering if it should be a peach. I feel like it's got the
velvet on a
ripe plum is a little bit better.
Yeah, plum's just a ripe plum is just a really nice. It's calming.